just clicked to say unmute you. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Hello, everybody. And Michael, how Richard loved you. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh. This is a dream come true. I have so much to say. Thank you, Semi and Joe. Aren't they doing a great job? Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And just wanted to say that this was oh my gosh, my dream. His birthday's coming up, and I didn't want this to be a closure. I wanted it to be a new beginning for all of us together. And here you all are, that we can continue his legacy, but also all of ours. And that's what one of his goals were. And it's like, Semi and Joe are making this come true. And all of you, every single one of you, it's like, I'm just amazed. Just it's kind of like, to me, he just is alive in a different way or something, and even if you didn't meet him, I keep hearing people saying, if you read Alla Prima, it sounds just like him. Joanne Manji was saying that you hear his great knowledge, his great writing, you see his great paintings, and then his sense of humor in there. Anyway, and I just wanted to say, and then, man, I'd love to meet everybody. So we meet all, 3,000? But I did want to say that this whole weekend was made from people who loved Richard, including all of you. All of you are making this weekend. And you can just feel the love. It's like it's going all around the world, all your colors and us painting together. And couldn't believe Semi and Joe is the one who added this part to it. I was going to have you send all your stuff by email and archive it forever for like 100 years from now. Your stories will still be here. But then we get to meet you all. I mean, this is just so amazing. So anyway, Joe and Semi, anybody?
Yeah, I'll be here for you, Nance. I just want to tell you, we've had hundreds and hundreds of people checking in and out. Everybody's been very well behaved. You'll be proud of it. And do you know, Nancy, I can speak on behalf of everybody that's here right now and everybody who's been on before this whole 9 hours and 24 minutes. They have shared nothing but absolute love and joy and celebration and everything that you wanted it to be about for Richard. Everybody, if you take a moment from where you are right now and just write in the notes section there where you're from, so Nancy can see. Nance, we've had Nairobi, we've had Dubai, Iceland, Singapore, all over the UK, Switzerland, Iran, New Zealand, Hawaii, Bangalore. We've had you name it, like even more here. You can see the American contingency are now awake.
There's Sweden.
They have Sweden.
Australia. I mean, it's just South
Africa. We've got Ireland. Honestly, Nancy, if there's a way that we could ever show you, we're with you.
This was Richard's mission to share everything he knew about art and joy and kindness, all those things that he was also about. But he wanted to write down everything in that book, and just amazed. We're like this family, this underground family that doing all this joy and color, and that's what's making the world with all these problems in it go on, and just thank you all.
We're thanking you. I've seen somebody here that we need to bring on, and Penelope, I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, darling.
Hello, everybody.
before you say anything, what I've asked everybody to do to begin with is introduce yourself, say where you are, and we'll know it. But how do you know Richard?
How do I know Richard and Nancy? Um, I'm Penelope Simpson Adams, and in Putney, Vermont, and I have the barn, the Village Arts of Putney, and which is the home of the Putney painters. And Richard and Nancy came into our lives in 1998 when they bought my parents' farm in West Brattleboro, Vermont, Jensing Hill Farm, and you're going to see a little video tomorrow about kind of the beginning of how we all came together and started painting in our studio. And it changed our lives. And I just have to say, I've been watching this morning and I haven't cried in a while. And I'm not really sure if I'm going to be a great panelist because it is so overwhelming to see so many people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And the dream, Nancy, my darling friend, the dream of Nancy and Simi and Joe putting this together. And it just makes me want to do this all the time because our world needs this so much. They were all connected from around the world as artists and painters and patrons. And just to hear everybody's stories and how they, and the chats and just the impact that this man and the word generosity and when Tim Reese said, it's like my grandfather that I want to please so much, the sentiments are incredibly touching, and I'm hoping that I can make it through 24 hours of this. I'm going to have to talk.
That's
I just want to thank everybody here supporting this and artists and yourselves, because this is a gift that is phenomenal, and we wouldn't have been able to do this without Zoom and without Simi and Joe.
without them going 24 hours, everybody, because they love Richard.
Can you hear us, Anne and Scott?
We can hear you. I think we do.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you just fine. Oh, so before you go and say anything, just say who you are, where you are, and how you know Richard and Nancy.
So actually through Rosalie was teaching one of our students, saying to her, you've got to read this book about Richard Schmid. That's the only way you're going to get better. And she said, well, I know Richard. You've got to email him. And we said, well, no, he's very busy. He won't want to know about us. We're in London. And so we emailed him, and our student said, did he reply? And I said, well, it was only a couple of hours ago. She goes, no, he'll reply, don't worry. And then we got an immediate reply back from Richard, and I'd written a really formal English note saying, dear Richard, sincerely, Anne Weatheridge. And he wrote back with, lots of love, of course. And I got Nancy's messages with big hearts and love. And I was like, wow, this is a different approach. This is wonderful. Then Richard's been helping us with Nancy over the years with our art school in London. And we really love him, and he's all around the school every day. Every day they're quoted. Nancy and Richard are quoted most days.
There you go.
Oh my God. It is so good to see you guys. I mean, and this is, tell them about your school. This is what
So we started at art school 17 years ago, Scott?
2004.
Yes, in London. We met in Italy, and I found an American in Italy and brought him back to London. And then Rosalie started with us in 2007, which was when our first daughter was born. And Richard came through, well, Simi, we discovered about your brushes in Yorkshire through Richard.
I know. Isn't that crazy? And now those guys are one of the only places in London that that sell our brushes, and we love you. I sent you a note in your order on Friday. You'll get it on Monday, by the way. And we just, it's just such a small world that we love each other. And Anne came up to Yorkshire and did a workshop with us with Jeremy. And I knew that Anne loved Nancy and Richard and Scott. And then I came down to you guys and did a brush demo. And it's just, this is what we're talking about, right?
This is
This
what
is what it's all about. To hope
bring somebody on, I'd love to say hello who's painting out there or watching or.
okay, but I tell you who is here.
I'm sorry, Sema from Iran. Oh my gosh, it's so
Hello,
good.
Nancy.
Everybody here, but Sema, oh my God, Sema is from Iran, and Alireza sent a photograph of him and his art students holding up his books and
Yeah.
asked if he could meet Richard, and he came and painted with us. What was that, about 5 years ago?
Maybe, yeah.
I forget
Nancy.
long ago, and it's like we've been friends ever since with Iran, and it's just so exciting that his books got through to you all, And then what they did was, I forget how much longer, because you were a big part of that. They did a festival in honor of Richard. 50 Iranian artists painted him, and a lot of them were women. That touched him so much, because he's always rooting for the women, just like Alireza was doing. It was just so wonderful. Oh my gosh. I mean, again, every single one of you, this is just so amazing. But this is, this is what Alireza said.
This is us.
That's his book reached. See, they're holding the book up, and I just love every student here. But look at how many women. I was like, oh my gosh. And then this was part of the. I have a lot. I saved all these. I kind of screenshot them all. Here, then they were all painting them.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I want to show this beautiful and valuable gift for me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. And this is,
Yeah.
and here is his handwriting.
Yeah.
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 Thank you so much, Nancy.
Kathy.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. So I went to the American Academy of Art, 74, 75, 76. So I missed Richard, but that school was all about Richard. And then I left before he came back and started at the Palette and Chisel. So I missed all that. But I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I ended up in the Talisman Gallery, Jody Kerber's Talisman Gallery in Bartlesville. And so I encountered Richard a lot there. And there was one, I want to show you this. There was one time when my teacher, Bill Parks, came there.
Oh, yes, our teacher too, Bill Parks. Yes.
That's me. That's Richard. That's you.
Gosh.
Parks.
Oh.
Behind you and Bill is part of a beautiful painting that Richard did of you in a red velvet dress. Because I so wanted to study the work, I begged Jody Kerberger to let me come in to that retrospective show and make some copies. And somehow I talked her into it. And so I had made this copy from life.
That looks like his painting. Oh, that's great to get it from life. And
you packed up for 25 years. And because of this, I knew I had it. So I started looking for it. I unpacked it and I went, so it's in pastel. I'm going to see if you can see it.
Pastel?
It's in pastel. And because I worked in pastel at that time, that's why I ended up not painting with Richard. But I don't know if you can see that.
It looks just like the painting. Oh my gosh. That's what Semi was saying. People study Richard's painting. That's the way you can learn. That's gorgeous.
And the amazing thing was that I kept this packed up all this time. You know, Jody said, now make sure you don't sell that. I would go, oh, are you kidding? She was, that's just for you. It's just for you. But because I packed up and moved and it was packed away, I just thought about getting it out just yesterday. And it just brought me back to those times, those shows. And now I know it's gonna make everybody cry because I'm gonna cry, but during that time, you know, you would just sit and talk to Richard, and I was looking at his paintings and just so amazed. People have only seen the books. If you see the real paintings and you see the paint strokes in one painting, every type of way you could use oil paint was in one painting. He just had fun with it, from thin dripping paint to a delicate brushstroke to a thick one, to the big house painting brush, which was 4 inches wide and a big stroke. And he just put it all in one painting and made it work like I never saw anybody do. And I was just so enamored of it. And I just was going on and on. And we were just talking about art and how much we loved it. And at one point he says, aren't we so lucky? And I said, to be artists? And he said, to be alive. To be alive. And I had never forgotten that, because just to get up every single day, no matter what is happening in the world, no matter what's shut down, no matter all the things we go through as we get older, we lost people, we lost Richard, but just when I think of that, I just want to wake up every day and say, thank you, God, that I'm alive and that I could get to my studio and do something.
Mary Quinn, would you like to say something, Mary? Mary has done so much for the palette and chisel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. We are on third floor almost, I think, every day, almost, literally. There is like, I think, doesn't matter the weather or anything, holidays. So the painting spirit is always here. So I think, you know, Richard is always with us as long as people here painting. It's
That's so wonderful. That's a wonderful tribute to say, you know. I mean, the palette and chisel, when we were going there, Rose, Scotty, I, and Romel and Clayton and everything, it was like $60 every 3 months, and there was models almost every day. And we didn't have money, and they still continue this today. I mean, it might be more or something, but that's what this is about. And you get together, and that energy, you know, and that energy goes out to the world. And in your homes, you know, during COVID, even in our homes, we need to create that energy in our homes during COVID. But thank you so much. Can I ask you one thing, Mary? From his books or from his videos, is there one thing you'd like to say how he influenced your work, or you learned from him, or?
Well, it's his edges. His edge is so poetic. It's like, it's literally incredible.
Yeah, you know what he said about edges too, when he was writing Alla Prima, he said nobody ever talked about edges before. Nobody wrote it down, and it was very difficult to write it down, but he was very good at communicating that to us, even in his words. That's a good one. That's a good one, Mary.
We have, next up, we're going to bring Kyle in. So Kyle, if you're there, we're going to ask to unmute.
Oh my gosh, Kyle.
Hey, can you hear me?
Man,
Yeah,
yeah.
my friend. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. How are you?
I don't know if people know his work. He painted with us. I mean, how old were you when you painted with us?
I think when I first
12.
met you all, I think I was like 17 or 18. So it was a while ago. Yeah. Nancy, it's so nice to see you. It's been such a long time.
So
And,
good to see you.
Again, obviously my heart goes out to you and
I know
everyone.
yeah.
But this is such an incredible thing to put together, and so thank you for everyone that did this. I mean, this is obviously just a perfect example of why he made such a huge impact. I mean, the fact that this many people are even taking the time to do it. There's not many people, I don't think, that have been able to make that kind of impact that that he has, and not just from like the technical knowledge of painting, but I mean, I remember always thinking I wasn't sure if he was teaching me about painting or teaching me about life, in a sense.
Oh, so
And
great.
he'd say something, and then he'd just like turn into this like idea of how to live, and I realized I think that's how he seemed to paint. Is it was one and the same. So he'd find all those connections, and just the way that
Oh,
he could kind of communicate that, and also just keep it like, I think a lot of people, to keep it fun, and he obviously took art very seriously, but it never was like, I mean, seemingly never was a drag. It was always just a challenge, or like a little exploration of finding a new way to do something.
yeah.
So it was, I mean, that time, I don't know, I think I was able to paint with you guys for 5 years or so, 6 years. And it was incredible. I look back now, and I was pretty young, and I don't think I maybe grasped the magnitude of what was happening that I do now. But I obviously, without that experience with Richard and with you and everyone else up there, it's a big part of who I am today. And I try to think about painting that same way. So yeah, this is
That was so well said. And I've been watching your work. I don't know if anybody knows them. He's very good. So I want to ask you one more question
yeah.
Does Semi need to go first, or can I ask him a question?
No, I was just going to say, I know Kyle's work and he's brilliant.
Yes,
well,
very, very brilliant. And I just wanted to know, because that was just a great tribute. That was just, it's just so true. He taught painting, but just being him, he taught how to live, and
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, so since your paintings are just amazing, is there one thing you'd like to say that you learned from him? I know it's not one.
Yeah.
Favorite thing, or the most that helps your paintings, or what would that be? Or somehow he taught you something, or whatever.
I think one of the things, I mean, I'm working on a portrait now, and I'm not working from life, but
Oh, can we see your portrait? Does everybody want to see
it's
his
in
portrait?
a little in the middle here, but
Oh, yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, yeah, okay, that's good.
working on,
Okay.
so trying, it's getting there.
It's beautiful.
But I remember, oop, thank you, when he'd paint from a model or whatever in Putney, and so much of the time, especially as a young artist, and probably everyone else would want that model to be sitting still and not moving, and he would just be engaging with them and chatting with them. And I think I realized, or what I've tried to put into my work, is realizing that we're not just painting the person, but like he obviously used that experience to capture that painting, but have that time to communicate on like a human level with somebody. And I feel like I try to like view whatever my subject is kind of in that concept of, this is like an opportunity for engagement, not just producing a painting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Sarah, if you can unmute, and Hillary, I'm going to unmute you both.
Both at the same time. Great. Hello.
Sarah Thibodeaux, and I don't really know you personally, Nancy or Simi. I did meet you once in, I think, I couldn't remember what year, but I believe Richard presented at the Portrait Society in DC maybe one year, and did a slide lecture of his work. And I think I got to meet you at the reception, but the way I was introduced to Richard, right now I've been a faculty member at the New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts, which was our atelier here. But I was always searching for more and how to make my work better. And I found my way to Jeremy Lipking in 2005. And I asked him for a recommendation for books, and he said, well, of course, Alla Prima by Richard Schmid. And so I just suddenly bought that book, and I got the brushes, the Langnickel brushes, which were like such a strange thing back then. And of course, I took that book and I put it by my bedside. I think I hear it is still here. And I just read it every night. I dipped into it. Every night. And so I looked at the paintings just with complete awe and read his instruction. And I was so relieved by every reassurance that he said about how you feel and how you may feel discouraged or how you should keep trying. But just the expert mastery of his brushwork and his painting really, was such a shining star for just a regular painter like me out there. So I think I was sort of starstruck by you all. I never really pursued any kind of friendship, but I followed you from New Orleans, where I live. I've taught portraiture, and I've passed on. Now I teach my own online class, and we teach Richard's book, and we did color charts last year during COVID. I took my class online, and we did the color charts, and then my students were so inspired that they want to do a year of Richard Schmid, where we use the books and we just dip in a little bit each month and use maybe different color charts. So we're about to start that in October.
Excellent. Let us know how that goes. That's
okay.
Awesome.
Example. So anyway, he's just been a huge influence in my life, and so have you and your work as well. Which I didn't mean to say as an understatement, but really a strong statement. But anyway, we're here in New Orleans very much in awe of Richard. And of course, now we buy all the rosemary brushes and have, of course, ditched those old terrible brushes years ago.
I can't believe who's on here. Alareza.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, I just saw Sema. Oh, here, hold on. Irene and got these. I was telling everybody how you sent that. How wonderful. There's Sema. Look at Alvarez.
Hello.
Exactly.
And Richard was just.
Remember this picture, yeah.
And then this one.
Yeah.
Honoring Richard. He was so proud of all of you that he was able to reach you in Iran. And after you came here, and I mean, we have so many stories to say. You posed for him, went back and created this, painting to music, and just so many wonderful things doing this.
I'm so sorry that we are talking to each other in this position and without our instructor, I mean Schmid. Yeah, always I remember you and Richard, both of them beside each other, and now it's really different and it's really difficult for us. But the way that Richard shows us is really brilliant and excellent for us. And his smile is in our mind and never it's going away. And you can see the statue of the Schmid and performance by Alireza, our instructor, as you can see.
من تا اینجای پورتری ریچارد رو از حفظ کار کردم برای اینکه خودم یادآور میشه که چقدر جزئیاتش
I perform this statue by heart and no models and by heart. It's very, very important for me and to remind him here from Iran.
It is beautiful. It is just so beautiful. Richard was honored to have met you. I'll let him translate. Those 2 times together, you painting with us and you posing with us.
Thank you so much indeed. And to be sure that we are beside you all the time, and the memory of his works and his effects on us is the permanent.
هرچند جبر دولت‌های ما را از هم دور کرده.
Of course, the powers of the political powers that separated us, but our heart, which is the joined together.
من بازم مثل همون موقعی که شما دیدم سعی کنم ازتون دعوت کنم بیاین به ایران.
I invite you to join us in Iran.
حتما براتون باور نکرده که چقدر شما رو اینجا دوست دارم.
And I want to say that so many people here in Iran likes you and want to be that you come here and to join us. Mahsa and yeah.
Oh, you're one of the artists.
Yeah.
See everybody, 50 artists from Iran painted Richard. He was honored. Yes, I think I have a picture of you. I took off the internet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's our great pleasure.
Richard was so proud of all of you. He couldn't believe that he would be honored from Iran, 50 artists.
Thank you so much.
Oh, just so nice to meet all of you. And I mean, to reach all around the world, to keep Richard's legacy going, but also all of yours. You are so important around the world, all of you.
We are waiting for the great exhibitions, the great events.
Someday.
And yes.
Someday. And it's like all around the world now. Richard has reached all around the world, and how we can keep going together. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much indeed.
And you can keep watching it. You know, all these people are amazing. Oh my gosh. And there's Jeremy. Going from Iran to Jeremy.
Hey, Nancy.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah, we just went from Iran to LA with a click of a button.
You're going to be so proud of us. Let's tell you a bit of our stats because you've not been on for long, so you can find out.
You're right. I just got on.
We have been going live for 11 hours and 22 minutes. We've got 12 hours and 40 minutes left. We have hit, I can't even count how many countries, but I'm going to tell you a few of them. We've hit Nairobi, India, Dubai, Iceland, Singapore, Melbourne, and other places like Sydney and millions of other places in Australia and New Zealand. Those guys definitely held the fort for us for the first 4 hours or so. We've hit loads of places in England, including down in London, but London isn't as important as Yorkshire, as we all know. But Switzerland we did hit. We hit Tehran in Iran just now, and we've hit Bangalore and Hawaii, South Africa. If everybody can just take a minute to just write over in the comment section where you're from, and I'm going to write them down this time, I promise. But we are amazed that so many people are on here to celebrate Richard and this 24-hour Paint-A-Thon. Nance, I don't know if you've seen, obviously, as we've had people coming in, but people are painting away in their studios. It's absolutely amazing to see. And Jeremy, obviously, you know what's going on tomorrow with you and Rose Frantzen, Dan Gerhardt. Nancy's going to paint with you, Michelle, Dunaway, and Clayton Beck in honor of Richard for a couple of hours. Do you want to just tell us, Jeremy, what you're going to paint tomorrow? Did you decide yet?
Oh, yeah, can I leave it a surprise for now?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Does that mean it doesn't know?
You probably.
It'll be a good surprise. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Jeremy, do you have the story specifically of when you went up to the barn?
Yeah, that'd be a fun story to share. So so this was, I can't even remember what year it was, a long time ago now, and this was the first time I'd had a chance to paint with Richard. And so I think Tony Pro was there, some other a bunch of people were there, and so we went out to paint that barn in Putney. And so it's got, if you haven't seen it, it's got 2 windows. It's a big barn, and so maybe spend an hour like doing this little, I don't know, it's like a 8x10, just a small painting. And then finally Richard comes around, and like I'm really excited because this is the first time I'm gonna get like a critique from Richard. And so he's really quiet, and I ask him, just tear it apart if you need to, just give me some just tell me what you think. So he grabs one of my paintbrushes, and then really quiet, and just right under the 2 windows puts a smiley face and turns the barn into like a smiley face. And then he walks away.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
My first Richard critique.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Well, tell us something that one of the best things you've learned from him, or something that you apply in your paintings or influenced you in some way.
Oh man, hard to pick one thing just because he's been so influential, and I really I mean, let me, one thing that I don't know, I mean, like I've told you before, Nancy, I think like everything I know about painting I learned from Richard and Alla Prima. But one thing that's from the first time I saw his work, that's always kind of the one thing that excited me about it was his edges and his brushwork, and just makes his painting so lifelike. And I've always tried to get that in my work too.
That's a good way to put it. It made it lifelike.
It's how you look at one of his portraits. It's almost like you're standing there looking at the real person. They're just about to open their mouth and speak.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Jeremy. We were at that show in Ohio, wasn't it?
It was it was in Scottsdale.
Was it Scott? Well, and you came up to me and you showed me your work, and I was just like, "Whoa, where'd you learn this?" And Alla Prima. I was like, "Holy smokes! Come and meet Richard." It was just amazing.
That was a fun experience to get to chat. I mean, you guys spent a lot of time. It was Aaron Westerberg and I drove from California. We tried to get into the workshop. Richard was teaching a workshop at Scottsdale Artist School, and it was impossible to get in. Obviously, we didn't get in. But Richard did like a slideshow afterwards, and so that was open to the public. And like we drove out there, and we like left after work one night and just slept in the car, and then we went to galleries, and then went to that presentation the next day, and got a chance to talk to you guys afterwards. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Whilst Jeremy's here, Nancy, this is Ali and Ellie down in Brazil, my friends from Sampa in Sao Paulo. Obrigado.
Hi people. Hey Ali.
Oh my gosh, were you the people who were on the stairs for his 80th birthday? Oh my God, that picture. Yes. Okay, so this is another one. His book, for the 80th, the Global Card Party.
That's it.
You sent those beautiful photographs from your school.
Yeah.
What is it called? What's your school called?
Plein-Air Studio.
Yeah. Plain Air Studio in South America. Where? Okay. And they sent on Instagram and stuff, you know, holding up his books and happy birthday. I mean, that was just, Richard just thought the world of that. That was just so amazing.
Nancy, I can tell you when I went on a bit of a sabbatical for 3 months, and I went around South America, and I don't know how we got wind of the fact that I was going to be going on a route that would cover these. When Ali reached out, or I reached out, I don't remember, but we reached out, and I walked into their studio. You know the warmth that we keep describing in Putney, where you walk in and you know that they're friends. They're not just friends, then they're family. You stay at the house. You love their children like you love.
Oh my gosh.
And Ali and Ellie, I'm telling you now, just move them from Sampa and stick them next to you in your own village, and they are family. They are the kindest, sweetest souls, and I absolutely love them. And they honestly, Nance, I'm not just saying this to you, they eat, sleep, and breathe Richard. That's what Ali does. That's how he believes, and that's what he teaches his students. And he is the biggest credit to you guys down in South America. And I've witnessed it for myself, and I go back every year, other than COVID, to see these guys because they're just so special.
Would
Yeah.
you? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for you. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Richard. He's with us, always with us through the books. It's an artist book. It's so dirty because I used to take some special things about his life and his work. And I want to say that for us in Brazil, Richard is a great master for us, and we can give something special that we learned with Richard through the books. And thank you for create this channel. This connection is important, and I'm sure for the rest of some people and the rest of artists in São Paulo, in Brazil, I'm sure Richard is so important for us. Thank you.
Just thank you all. I just stop talking. I just want to hear your stories. Okay.
And I just want to say that I'm a testimony of the wonderful work that Alexandre does at his school. It's amazing. And they really treasure Richard there, and they pass the word along. And I just want to say hi to them.
Hi, Louis.
We love you, Louis.
Love you.
And I can promise you, Richard, and it won't be long until we kidnap Nancy and we will bring her down to Sao Paulo. And I know
I'd love to come there. Richard would have loved to too. I mean, Richard loves these institutions. You're just like the Paladin Chisel, and like London, and all what Alareza is doing out there. And yeah, it's just helps the world go round. You know, it really does.
And yeah, and to get Jeremy out there too. He loves South America, so we'll do it one day, guys. I promise. For now,
that'll be wonderful.
You will be so very welcome.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. Loved you. Thank you for doing that birthday. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Bye.
Okay.
You know what I would love, Sammy?
Do you want a
Can we
break?
see- Yeah, I will. I was going to say 12, but can we see some people's paintings? Let's bring some.
Absolutely. Pat, let's have Pat.
So, which Pat? So Nancy, I met you at the O'Clour Academy in Charleston several years ago. I was taking my first plein air class, never did it before, with Kathy Anderson. And I've also taken classes with Stephanie, and Stephanie's always on my case to do my charts. So, and also with Richard, I'm doing charts. They're beautiful. Really pale on the bottom, which Stephanie goes, you got to get paler. Richard says just a blush of color on the bottom ones. Really, really hard to do, by the way. Yes. And I'm doing my color studies of 25 strokes. Get your color chart out. Does it match? So it's a wonderful way to celebrate, Richard.
Oh, thank you so much. That makes my day. He did them 3 times, and each time he said he even learned more. They are not easy, but don't you learn a lot by mixing them and having to have it go halfway? And
I have to say, I found colors that I never knew existed to put them together. And I go, oh my God, there's more flesh tones. There's more flesh tones. Oh my God. Okay, so every color has a flesh tone in it somewhere. So I thought that was very, very, it's been very fun to do. And the first ones I did compared to this one, they're horrible. They need to be redone now because the bottoms were not light. These are light now, so.
And Jeff, where are you from?
Hi, Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually from Seattle, but we live in the Netherlands now the last few years. So, and oh, we love it over here. It's very similar climate to Seattle, but but everybody speaks Dutch and English, so it's good. But I'm actually very new to painting, just the last couple of years, and Richard's book was the first major art book purchase that I made last year at the beginning of the year, and really poured into it, did color charts, and have just been really trying to learn a lot in the last couple of years. And I've been very fortunate to connect with Susan and Scott and Joanne Mangia. I was actually able to meet Joanne this summer in Seattle. That was a lot of fun. She actually painted our dog for her demo, which was great. So we have a Mangia original in our collection, and a Scott Burdick. And so it's just been really, really lovely to get to know some of this community that has been born out of Richard and your work. So I don't know you guys, but I feel like I've gotten to know you, and I really appreciate everything that you both have done. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's amazing in 2 years that you can do something like that. You can see the joy in your painting too. And
well, wait a minute. Wait, before you get going, I want you to do the same with everyone else that we've done, which is say who you are, where you are, and how you know Richard.
Well, I got quite a lot to say. That would be a really long intro. I'm Alexey Steele. See me. Is Rosemary here with Mom? Yeah. Mom was right there the first great time we all got together. But I think, there are many, many great moments. But it was the amazing thing, probably the first thing once we just met. Richard and Nancy came into the studio late at night. We're setting up for this great event tomorrow. First thing, yes, Richard, yes, we need to go to grocery store. I think, Richard, we got food, we got everything. What are you talking? No, we need to go. So we go to, loading up in my Bronco, running to the whatever Ralph's next door in Carson. This is and suddenly Richard Schmid coming in the middle of the night. Sim, you know what Carson looked like back then. So we're running with Richard back streets of Carson, which is in itself, I'm already in pieces. I am running in my Bronco in the back streets of Carson, and here is Richard Schmid, by the way, and Nancy, and we're running to the store, something really important like
super necessary, it's urgent, it's now, it's before anything now. So we go to the store, and which section would you think Richard and Nancy would go? Richard just, guess.
Kitchen roll.
That's correct. Paper towels. Paper towels run. So because of course, Richard's key thing, I mean, we gotta have Viva towels. Viva towels. So, and that look of Richard grabbing the whole bunch of Vivas from the shelves and just happiest expression you could imagine. I have somewhere that shot, that Richard with his glowing, happiest man in the world. 10 million bucks just landed. Viva towels. And I thought that sense of Viva Maestro. Now that is Viva Maestro, you know. But anyways, so Richard saw the beautiful brushes. And that was the moment, by the way, one of this amazing parts of this extraordinary day was whom? Rosemary walking through the door of my studio, straight from airplane, walking straight into the studio and into my heart and into all of our hearts and into my life and changing and giving the gift that just keeps giving of her remarkable brush. Suddenly, you know, we all had this and that's the moment. So the way Richard treasured every part of his process, his brushes, his setup on the palette, the way he would approach the canvas, the beginning of the work is half, maybe most important half of the work. All this, you know, and that was in that moment, that towel, that joy of paper towels. The right paper towels, the Viva. Every time I look at Viva towels,
Alexey,
you know,
can you tell the folks the story of the demonstration on stage? And
oh my God! Now that was okay. So now we gotta tell I mean, talking about Richard and this special moment. You gotta have the Gumsel drinking story. We drank Gumsel with Richard together. So when Richard called me up, and I remember it clearly, I'm filling up somewhere, gas, Costco or something, and there's Richard on the line. Hey, Alexey, how's the KGB doing lately? All this stuff. I said, well, I'm still on the run, you know, they'll just, you know, oh, be careful, they'll fund you, they'll get you. So we chat, we laugh, we talk about that. And I said, you have to say yes before you hear what I'm telling you. I said, yes, Richard, what is it? You're posing for me. You don't know yet, but you're posing for me for my demo. I said, Richard, I know that you're adventurous, but not that adventurous. You don't want to paint me, especially on stage. No, I know what I'm doing. I'll handle it. Don't worry about that. But why I want you to see it is I want you to wake them up. So, you know, this is the thing. You're sitting for me and you kicking them as hard as you can with all that you got. And I said, no way, Richard. You know, you just raising your stakes. I know what it is. But then as we're laughing and we talk about the planning that session, and then I said, you know what, but we need something. We need like something. We need to, you know, we need to wake him up. And I said, hey, Richard, how about this? And I said, well, and I said, let's have a drink, you know, let's have a drink on stage. I said, you know what? Yes, let's have a drink on stage, but let's drink of Gumsol. So what we did, and we were laughing, just talking about this, we were laughing. So what I did is with my amazing, sweetest assistant at the time, Dwight, Mom, Rosemary, of course, remember Dwight? So Dwight, bless his heart, so gets the Gumsol can, throws out the can, cleans it for a week, boils the water in it, all this, and I'm putting the vodka in it. And I'm putting that I forgot what I put, an absolute or something. I'm putting this in the Gumsol can. And right as we sit on stage, on that stage, and suddenly as we chat and we say, you know what? It's time to have a drink, obviously. But, vodka is for sissies. Real artists drink Gumsol. So everybody laughing. And we have 2 glasses and we have a Gumsol can and we pour out of Gumsol can and we take it and to everybody's horror, we drink it. We drink it with Richard. We had a drink with Richard of a decent vodka out of Gumsol cans. Real artists drink Gumsol. He was laughing so hard when we kind of came up with that gig. He was just as happy as if he got another huge bag of Vivas. That was Richard.
And do you remember
before
he started his serious painting of you, he did he was
exactly. I wish he left it. I wish he had another canvas.
And you were a matchstick man. You were a Spaniard. Do you remember with the?
Yeah, of course, in my cape and all. And he would say, "Yeah, put something on, like something black, big black." I said, "Well, I can put it. I have I have this cape that actually I do wear when it's cold, and a hat. Oh yes, and something on the neck." I said, "Neck, you got bench of neckwear." I said, "Well, yeah, I can get you in a bow tie." Said, there you go. So it was great, one amazing, and he did under this beyond, and there comes Richard the maestro.
So let me just put this out to the group then, to everybody that's watching. You in front of you, what you've got other than 8 beautiful women, and they are really all individually absolutely great painters, and I can joke with them that they're a rabble because they're my friends, but they are such a laugh and I love them. But you've got a wealth of knowledge amongst this group. I can't imagine how many years worth of painting. If you added up all of your years, it'd be like 500 years worth of just amazing painting. So if anybody wants to ask us any questions, just put the hand button up, the raise hand button. We've already got a couple coming in, so I'm gonna get comfy.
No, we don't.
Get yourselves comfy, and then I will. I'll start asking you a couple of questions. So the first one that's coming in is: do you like to start your painting? Do you like to start your paintings in the same way like Richard started his?
No, we don't.
I would say no, we don't.
Okay. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Want to expound on that?
Go ahead.
I'm going to say that I think every painting has its own way of being started, and I think there's certain general ways that we start paintings, but to me, the subject matter tells me how I'm going to start that painting, and I look at each painting individually. I don't have a specific way of starting every time. I have some that I like to do, but I don't think there are any rules, and I think Richard would tell you the same thing. There aren't any rules. So I like to be open to my subject as far as how I start. Cathy?
Actually, I feel I pretty much do start when I do garden or landscape or floral or still life. I do kind of start the same way. I'd hate to think of it as a rule. It's not a rule, but it's just it's the way that I just see my paintings come out by having a deep tone and having my values pulled out as far as my subject. When I go out in the landscape, actually, like I'm doing today, it's like it's different. I do it a little bit different, but we used to watch Richard put these gorgeous tones on his canvas and just design it. And I also remember people thinking that they were copying Richard. You see it in paintings that people put out there where they think that it's just a wash or a scribble that he's putting back there, and it's not. It's so designed and so well thought out to complement whatever his subject is.
Carol, and a lot of can I add to that?
Yeah.
add to that? He
Yes.
also chose a background that he could use in the painting. Like he would, you'd see a little bit and maybe in the flesh tone or, somewhere he would be able to use that wash for, to help him out with painting. So
Somebody else.
I hope that helps.
Oh yeah, all of this is going to be gold dust for some people. I know it. Somebody's put they are envious of your group, and how do they get one started?
How do you get a group started?
Yeah, if it were me and I wanted to do a Richard Schmid a la Prima type group, I would do maybe it was Alla Razor or somebody talked about they were going to go through the book and the color charts, one chart at a time. Or I would take Alla Prima, I'd find 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It could even be one other person to start with, like-minded, who wanted to study Alla Prima as a way to paint. And I think the group will build around that because I think as people hear what we/you are doing, it gets exciting and people want to paint together because we paint so much by ourselves, and to be able to talk about ideas like Alla Prima or like we do in Putney Painters, it's heavenly.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a commitment issue too. You do have to have somebody that's willing to take the reins and organize things, and that would be her, Carol Arnold. You need a Carol Arnold. And but you have to have committed people that are really committed and dedicated to wanting to learn and painting as a group. We all just said today, we just love it so much. We're very lucky.
Can I add something?
Sure.
The thing about a group, Simi, this is Joanne. The thing about a group is you also have to be aware of the personalities that you're bringing into the group, because you don't want personalities that'll bring down the energy, and you have to have, and like the idea that Stephanie said about a common goal, I think is very important.
Yeah, I was going to say that people who want to share and will help each other brings the whole group up. It's amazing how much I've grown by learning and asking questions from all these Putney painters, Richard Schmid and Nancy. It's amazing how quickly you can grow. The more you share, right. If I'm suggesting something, somebody asks me, what do you think? And I'm suggesting something, I learn too. So it's really a great experience, and I these guys are like family now to me. We're just here.
I have to say this, knowing all of you so well. What's so beautiful about the Putney group and you girls within that is that you all celebrate each other. So, for example, last night, the first thing Cathy said to me is, I've just gone to see Steph, Carol, and Julia, and by the way, Julia won 3rd place, and it was like the second thing Cathy said, and it's like such a celebration of bumping each other up. It's all the time. It's like, oh, you've got beautiful frames. Where did you get those from? How are you entering that competition? What's the best way around it? Has anybody got any ideas to share? Oh, we can share a lift. And it's things like that sometimes they're only small things, but it's like-minded people. And I don't know if you guys saw a little bit of what Rosemary and Alexey were talking about, but that is what Alexey is to the core, that some people just don't get it. And if you don't get it, it's difficult to try and impose that on somebody. But when you're around people that get it, you're on such a high. And you can see it with Alexey. The minute that we're on the phone with him, he's on and he's hyped, because we all eat and sleep and think the same, not the same way, but we're on the same sort of track here to elevate art and each other. And you guys, honestly, you do that so beautifully. I'm going to go back to my questions now. What I'll say to everybody is that people are asking for all of your names and your contact information, so I'll let you guys go in after this and put that in the chat. Okay, we don't need to do that now. Joanna Spinks, I know that Cathy definitely knows Joanna. Shall we bring Joanna on? But she's basically, but 50 is not too late, and Boy, is she right. One of the questions we've got before we bring Joe on is people are asking if they can see your work today. So if you in a minute you need to decide collectively whether that's now or whether that's in an hour, but make that decision. And let's just invite Joe on.
We decided 1 hour. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Cathy. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you.
You just missed Peggy Kinsler. She had to leave.
Oh, I saw her wandering in the background there. It's great to be here. This is so fabulous and so heartwarming. I came on the first time at 4:30 this morning, LA time, AM, and it was just wonderful. Really terrific.
Bless you. Joe, can you talk to us about why you're saying 50 is not too late?
Yeah, I mean, it's never too late. I mean, when I was teaching, I had a guy come in at 85 and he'd never painted before, and he did really, really well. No, it's never too late, and the journey is the point of it, whenever you start the journey. So yeah. And there are just the instruction now out there in the world has never been better, you know. So
right, Cathy, unmute it just a second. I know that you can add to this too. Can you tell everybody what age you were when you started painting professionally?
How old I was when I started painting, did you say? Oh, professionally? I would say when my children were very young. That means I have to say how old I am. But when my children were very young, I just painted with watercolors, and I used to do outdoor shows, and I morphed from there into many, many things. But I just wanted to tell everybody that Joanna Spinks grew up in her art world with Everett Kinsler. She's very close with Peggy, who just left. So these are the greats that she learned with, studied with him for forever. So,
yes, absolutely. Yes, it was an incredible.
Yeah. I was very young, in other words.
Well, you know,
now I'm very old.
Yeah, I actually started painting quite late too. I was 32, I think, when I started painting. I'm 60 now. So, you know, a lot of people at the time thought that was quite late to start. But, you know, as, you know, Mr. Kinsler used to say, you know, you can do an awful lot with your heart, you know, and that's just about the truth of it, you know. So great instruction and just having that belief and working on letting go of that fear a little bit, you know, because that will just really slow you down and mess with your head. Yeah.
Actually, I was just going to make a comment. I think there's two kinds of people who are artists. One who will look at a master's work or in a museum and they'll say, oh, I give up. I'm just going to throw my brushes away. Or the other one that says, oh my God, I can't wait to get home and try that. So in my head, here, I'll say it on national TV in front of 2,000 people. In my head, when I see a portrait by Jeremy Lipking or Richard or Everett, I really think that I'm going to paint portraits like that. And no one will take that thought away from me. I don't know when, but I truly believe that I could paint a portrait like that someday.
I actually remember, Cathy, when you came out of the portrait exercise one year and you went, that's it. Her words were, she went, that's it. I'm painting portraits and next year I'm going to win it. And I'm like,
I'm going to be a finalist. I said a finalist.
I think Daniel would quote you as well as me. And me and Daniel looked at each other. Oh, it's because Daniel won and he didn't expect to win. And you were like, that's it. I'm going to enter it and I'm going to win it. I just want to say, I'm trying to bring Andrea on. She's written a beautiful comment in this section. Joe, we'll keep you on if you're okay staying on with us for a little bit.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Wonderful to see so many familiar faces. As one of the original Putney painters, I saw many of you welcomed into the group. Watched you with excellence. This weekend is a great way to celebrate over 2 decades of Richard's influence on Putney painters and so many other painters across the country and around the world. Originally, there were only 8 of us in the Putney painters. Are there any from the first year of Putney painters there now, I wonder. How many Putney painters are in the group now? There was quite a list of esteemed painters who learned at the old barn and moved on to the national recognition. It's wonderful times and I miss you all. And Andrea, I'm just going to ask you now, let me put you here. If you accept going on as a panelist, I can see if I can pull you in.
Who are the 8 original Putney painters,
You know,
Andrea?
I wish I could name them all. Rosemary and me. We were there at the what?
John
Sorry?
Kilroy? Was he in the beginning?
John Kilroy?
No, he came later. There were some people like Gil Perry.
Oh yeah.
And Toby Young. And it really, Rosemary and I stayed on. And then John Smith came on later. Actually, the captain was originally part of the group, and Penelope as well. Yeah, I think the only two that, you know, stayed the longest probably were Rosemary and me.
I think I was there very, very early too.
You were, I think you were like year 2 or 3 or something. You and Richard had met in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was living in Putney and at that time, and I was a painter, but in watercolors, really not really oils. And Penelope Simpson and I knew each other. And she said, this great painter has moved to the area and he's looking for people to come and paint with him. And I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who Richard Schmid was. and we went to the old barn and into John and Penelope's house, actually. And they showed this film called The Secret Squint. I don't know who has seen that. Probably a lot of these people have. And, you know, and I thought, oh, that's very quaint and nice. How nice. And, you know, I painted with Richard for quite a while before I knew how famous he was. So it was pretty funny. And he, you know, he came up to our house then at Christmas time. I went to his house at Thanksgiving. He was so talented in so many ways besides painting. You know, he could play the piano. He was a wonderful actor. We read a script at Christmas time of a medieval play up at my house, and he was just amazing. I was floored how good he was. Shouldn't be surprised because he was so good in front of a crowd.
Hi, Dad. Oh my gosh. Hi, Dick
McNeil.
Andrea brought me out of the shadows. I had to see her. Hi, Kyle. Nice to see you, Kyle. And the ladies.
Sorry, Dick, you were one of the first Putney painters, weren't you?
You and I came in around the same time. We could probably both argue about who was first. I just don't remember, but we were fortunate. We were fortunate to be there before the thing really took off. And I pinch myself, still amazed at my good fortune to have got in that early and it lasted that long. It was just so special.
Dick became a very close personal friend to Richard and Nancy too. They shared so many things. Dick was a former pilot, and Richard loved talking about that with you, right?
He did. I was very fortunate that he grew up in the landing pattern to Chicago O'Hare as a little kid. He spent a lot of time looking at airplanes. So I believe that was my my trick to sticking around for a while. You know, I was listening to Rosemary and I was thinking about the journey that we all took to luckily wander in there. I used to wonder if the people in Putney just got stopped on the sidewalk and asked if they were artists because there were so many lucky local Putney people that were in there. But I I wandered into Putney from 2 hours and 45 minutes away, knowing exactly who he was. I'm surprised I didn't have some kind of a coronary event when I walked in there, because I had seen his original books from the 1970s, his original landscape book, his original figure book. And I was in another idyllic painting spot on Monhegan Island with a very dear painter friend named Don Stone, overlooking the lighthouse and the ocean. And he said, "You ever seen these? You might want to sit down." So I literally remember that clearly as a jaw-dropping moment. The stunning examples of this man's work. And he lived in Colorado at the time. And it was just another vision of somebody out there that was amazing. Subsequently, another artist friend of mine, and I've already forgotten what your original question was. I apologize, but if I could continue, I had a friend who was invited to paint with the Putney painters when Richard moved to Vermont. And I thought this guy was kidding me when he told me that he had been invited. I wasn't going to fall for it. I literally didn't believe him. And he said he couldn't go. 2 weeks later, which was the Putney painter timetable every other weekend for September to May, he said, "I've been invited again and I can't go." And I talked my friend into letting you take my place. And at that point, it started to become, if this was a practical joke, he was going a bit too far. So I said, "All right, I'll bite." And off I went. And wander in to meet Richard Schmid and Nancy, Andrea, Rosemary, and Cathy, and some of the other girls that are in Connecticut right now. And I'm not a professional, but as I mentioned before, I think my airplane connection was my hook, and I was lucky enough to be able to keep coming back. If I could just add, I've been listening to Andrea and Rosemary, and Rosemary keyed in on something that I had wanted to say a number of times in the almost 20 years that we were there. Artists us in the room would comment, "This is the only group of painters that you will find where there's no there's no jealousy, there's no animosity, there's no backstabbing." It was so comfortably supportive. It was just a group of friends painting. And there was certainly a very talent level, and there just didn't seem to be any jealousy. You might want to paint like that person, but it wasn't this venomous thing that you can find other places. But one thing I wanted to mention, and Andrea keyed this in my head when she first came on, in the early days, to speak to Richard's generosity, in the early days of the Putney painters, we did a lot of portraits. At one point, Richard came up with the idea. I don't know how this came up. I don't remember any of us generating it. He came up with this on his own. He went through his personal collection of paintings and picked out portraits suited to each of our skills, however he determined what those were. And he told us to take these paintings home and study them. And like, was it Cathy that was her name this morning? I'm sorry, I can't remember. But she said to look at Richard's painting and see all the different examples of brushstrokes that would be on one painting. And that's what we were allowed to do by bringing it home into our house. This was the one that he let me have. I don't know if you can see that or not.
I'm going to put you as the main spotlight right now. Just bear with
All
me.
right. There we go. That's the one he let me take home and study. And to have this in front of me and be able to examine what he painted, how he painted, why he painted the layers the way that he did, I get chills now realizing that we were allowed to do that. I mean, through time, people have painted masters' works. You go to a museum, you tuck away in a corner and hope nobody bothers you. In the comfort of our own home, we got this master to let us take his paintings home. It just still astounds me. And I think both Richard and I were surprised that this worked. And he said, well, why don't we try that again? So I've got 2 more of them around here that he let me take home and copy.
Show them, show them.
As we all know, you're a concert pianist, and if you can perfectly copy and I'm not a musician, pick one, Beethoven, pick somebody's work, and if you can absolutely nail it, you're considered a genius. In the art world, that doesn't work that way. I was told I had a future in printing $50 bills at some point if I could do this. But the hard work is being the person that comes up with the original concept. And that's Richard's work is just one example of another, how stunning that was. But for him to be that generous and constantly be wanting to share with people what he knew was what sets him so far ahead of any other artist that I know. Certainly anybody at his skill level. There are artists, I'll mention his name, I'm sorry, but Andrew Wyeth is famously known for never wanting anyone to even watch him paint. This is not the same. Richard was not the same kind of guy. He wanted you to watch and he wanted to teach you what he was doing. And it just still amazes me. So next.
Dick, that was amazing. Thank you, Dick. We know how much of a real friend Richard was to you, so we appreciate you sharing that.
Well, I mean, everybody that reads his book, it's you're gonna in some sense feel what I feel when I paint. I can't possibly paint without hearing his voice. It's going to be with me forever. If you're trying to work through a decision, his voice is in the back of your head. And it was, as Rosemary said, it was an honor to call this man a friend. He was just a prince.
Penelope, I know that you said hi earlier, but I'd love it if you could tell us about the barn. Tell us about you. Tell us about, tell us everything. I don't know where to start. You're just so special.
Simi. Well, first again, I just want to say I was crying earlier. It was pretty moving this morning to watch everybody talking and hear everybody and their experiences, even if they hadn't met Richard, just their experiences of his work, the works that he's left for you to read and videos and things like that. And I think the one thing that people keep talking about alla prima, and alla prima is it is like paying for art school in $50, or now maybe it's $85, but it is the best investment you can possibly do. And Richard in that book is like he's talking to you directly, and I love that about how approachable, and that when I read it, and I used to sit when we would paint and I would read it out loud chapter by chapter to the Putney painters, and it just feels, I think I'm looking forward to reading it again, because I feel like we do hear his voice so easily in that book, and it's like he's talking directly to you. And you can go, whatever you're working on, whatever your problem is, you can find that in the book and say, because there's a lot of things to think about when you're painting. So, but I think I'll say, like, behind me is the portrait of the captain. And, so we lost 2 very dear men in our little painting family here in the last 3 years. John was gone, and Richard, and it's difficult. It's very hard to have them both gone. And this morning, the chap, I can't remember his name, but the man in Switzerland that did a portrait of Richard and John together. It's from the portrait of a captain.
Yeah, Adriano.
Adriano, that's right. When I saw that, that was about all I could take, and I had to like get off of this for a little bit and take a break. But the portrait of the captain was, I mean, the first time Richard painted me when he first bought the farm, and he and Nancy invited me over. They were in my mother's studio, and he put a mirror behind him and started painting my portrait, and he just started with my eyes and went out like this. And it was like looking through a fence at my own self. And I was told, I mean, he didn't do a drawing. He just started with my eyes. I've never seen the painter do that before. And he just knew what to do. I have the portrait here. I'll get it. But I was and he's chatting and asking me questions and pontificating on all kinds of philosophies while painting this exquisite piece. And it was my introduction to, this guy really does know how to paint and do everything. And then a few months later, he invited John to sit for him at the Manchester Center for the Arts. And he said, I'm going to I just want you to sit and do what he painted him a few times. And then when he didn't prepare us at all. When we got there, there were like 400 people in the audience. And John, we both went, oh my God, this is huge. And there were cameras everywhere. And it was what became the Portrait of a Captain video. And he just got on the stage and did exactly what he did the first night that we gathered artists together to meet him. And he just held court. He's mesmerizing, and he's brilliant. And he painted this. And when we got to the car, John and I were just looking at him thinking, who are you? Like, how did you come into our lives like this? And he said, here, John, hold on to my painting while I get the car open. And he opens the back and he's putting all these things in. He shuts the back and John goes, oh, wait, you forgot the painting. And he said, oh, will you just keep holding it for me? And so there it is. And then we were also a little bit nervous to frame it because he had told us that the frame is equally as important as the painting. And somebody talked about framing earlier. I think Nancy did when she was showing his watercolor. The frame he did a whole workshop with us just on framing and how important it is to really find the right frame. And it might be expensive, but it will make your painting sing. So we were pretty nervous about, like, how do you frame a Schmid who's going to be coming into your house a lot, not ruin this painting. So I talked with him about it and he said, let me take it. And he said, I have a framer, and he put this beautiful frame on it. So can you guys see that? I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
We can, but,
We'd love to see it closer.
we'd like to see it
closer,
if that's okay with you.
Okay. I hope I don't drop it.
No, don't.
It's actually not as heavy as I always thought it was. So let's see here. So can you see the detail of the frame? It's let me set it on here so I don't move it. What can you see?
We can see the end frame now, sweetheart. Oh, we can see you. There you go.
Okay, so there's this kind of I don't know what you would call it, but it's very bumpy and textured. And there's Johnny, the captain.
I was privileged to assist Richard with Alla Prima over 20 years ago, and I'm Kristien Thies, and I've been shy because I'm afraid I'm just going to bawl because I miss him so much. But having said that, he wrote a book in the 1970s, and to speak to your point about edges, and he was so upset with Watson and Guptill because he wrote all this wonderful knowledge and they didn't use any of it. They used like paragraph on edges, and that really upset him. So that's one of the reasons he wanted to to write Alla Prima. And so all the setbacks that he had, all the ignorant people that had no idea who he was back then in the 70s, it's just remarkable. I am a writer, so I'm in awe of all of you being painters, because I'm not a painter. But the last chapter of his book, when I worked with Richard in Colorado, he faxed me his book to read it, to go over it with him. And the last chapter of his book absolutely floored me. And after that, I was totally smitten. I mean, I didn't really know him. My late husband, Timothy, was an artist. So he was the one that really was he knew who Richard was, and he introduced us, etc. But the last chapter of his book, if you ever get upset or you ever get discouraged, just read that last chapter, because that's what he was really getting at. He was giving us all a doorway, all a key to enter this beautiful realm of creativity. And if, he said something simple like art has the ability to do good, but what it really does is when we all go into that state of pure creativity, it's a state of pure bliss. Can you imagine if all of us were in a state of pure bliss all the time, which we are when we're painting or writing? You lose track of time. There would be peace on earth, because you'd be in a bad mood, you'd be all blissed out. And that, he'd say, it should be fun. It's joyful, because it was so easy for him to, like, I call it, sink into that realm of pure creativity. So I don't know. I just love the guy. I was so privileged to work with he and Nancy. And I can't even tell you, Joe and Simi, wherever you are, I can't see you now, but thank you so much, because Nancy had this incredible vision. She's a visionary. And I never expected this to happen, because I had no idea how to do this. I know how to write, but I don't know how to do Zoom around the world. And they put it together. And I'm so grateful, Simi and Joe and your mom, for helping her, because she's like my little sister, and to have her vision become a reality, and to share this knowledge and this joy with artists around the world. Richard would be thrilled. And I know he'd be so proud of all of you to share his knowledge and to keep this knowledge alive. And that's the whole idea of it, just to keep going. So thank you, all of you.
SP West. I've asked to unmute you. You've got to just click your unmute button.
There we go.
Go. Hi.
Hi, Simi. My dog's going to bark, so I'm going to let her out.
Yeah, good idea. Max does the same.
I have 3 of them, and this one, whenever I'm on Zoom, has to be a part of it. The reason I wanted to speak today, and this is to Nancy and to all the artists who have followed Richard over the years. I am one of those people who is not even on the periphery. I'm out there with the great unwashed. We paint because we have to. I actually did not paint for years and years and years and years. I sold my firm 7 years ago with the sole idea that I was going to paint. I had no idea where to start, what to do, how to go about it, but I did not care. I knew this is absolutely what I needed to do. But there was no one around me that painted. I had spent my life, every time I traveled, the first thing I did was go to the nearest museum. I spent my traveling years, which were a lot, in seeing and experiencing every bit of art I possibly could. But I knew that I was not one of those people. I was not an artist. I was not a sculptor. I was not that. But there was a part of me that said, even though you're not, I've got to do this at some point. And there comes a point in your life, and I think from what I've read in Alla Prima too, that Richard Schmid would agree with me about this, that you abandon everything that anybody else thinks and you go and do what is truly you, what is truly you, even if you don't know how to go about it. So to put this in perspective, there was a young woman on earlier who talked about that she started so late in trying to become an artist. Well, my birthday is the same as Richard's. It's October the 5th. Next Tuesday, I turn 70, and I've just begun. I don't have years and years and years of classical training. I don't have years of drawing. I never picked up a pencil. I never did this, but somehow there was something there. So the way that I came to it is, well, how do I start? I didn't even know where to start. I bought some paint and left it in the tubes for about 6 months because I didn't even know what to do with the paint. And someone mentioned to me that there was a book called Alla Prima, which was out of print. But if I could get my hands on it, that this would be the book that could help me start. Well, Alla Prima 2 came out. I think I was the first person to buy it because I needed to read it. I had to read this book. And lo and behold, there was a plan in there for me. And I know from Richard's speaking through his words in that book, he was conversational. He was approachable. He was there to talk to me. I don't care who else read the book, but he was talking to me at that point. And in there, it showed all these different ways to approach a painting. That how you started, you could start this way. You could start by wiping out, doing it tonally. You could start with a detail and move out from there. And what Richard may have known is that this is how artists think. We don't do things the same way all the time. We can't. We might want to. I wish there was a formula that I could follow every time that I approach a painting, but there's not, because my brain does not work that way. My brain is working on something else. So here was this book that had not only the beginning of the answers that all the questions that I have, but there was a plan in there that I could follow. And one of the things I think is very, very, very important is to look at the lineage of every artist. And I'm going to use the title artist with me, not on the level that all of you are, all of you wonderful painters out there, but the level at what I am, where it's a part of my everyday experience. This is what I do. This is who I am. If somebody sees a painting and they like it, fine, they can have it. I don't paint for anyone other than for me to be able to show how I experience the world. And that was the other thing that Alla Prima 2 showed me, is that it's the experience, it's the feeling, it's not the object, it's not the thing, it's what your reaction is to this glorious beauty that is presented to you every moment of every day if you just open your eyes and look. So it's important for me to let Nancy and the person who worked with Richard on the book, to let them know, you touched really great artists that are out there, but you need to know that you touched the artist like me. And there are a lot more of me out there than there are great artists. We are the ones who paint because we have to, we want to, we do it. No one's going to make us rich. No one's going to give us ribbons because we don't even think to enter anything. But this is who Richard spoke to on a very, very deep level. So I think it's extremely important to understand that his approachability, and it wasn't just his clarity, because the clarity is super, super important so that we'll understand it, but it was the conversational, it was the approachability, it was be able to take one little thing at a time to help draw you through to everything else. So even though I never met him, I feel like I know him because I read his words. I read the things that it was so important for him to get across to everyone else, to other artists, to people who want to be artists, to people who can never be an artist but still want to think about being an artist, that the lineage is from Richard's teachers and mentors through Richard to me and to whoever I might touch in some little way. So there are legions of us, and I hope I'm speaking for all of them to say thank you. I do feel a special connection because my birthday is the same day, and that I will, unbeknownst to anyone, every year on my birthday, for as long as I live, will also raise a glass to Richard saying, thank you so very, very much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to tell all of you my own little tiny story and my own connection to Richard.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions and I've got to ask them. One, consider writing a book because we'll all buy it. Because you said that so beautifully, everybody is with you. Two, the person that you just described is the person that Mum and I look after day in, day out for a job. And it's actually our life, you know, and I guarantee it's also the people that the Peters that we've just spoke to from England, from the barn. They're also working with people like what you've just described. You're not the small number, you're the large mass. And I know that Richard, you couldn't have said that more beautifully, SP. I honestly have to say it was just perfect, and you absolutely have something in connection because of your birthday. Nancy is with us.
Oh, Nancy, kisses to you.
Oh my gosh, that's not a little story. It's so big.
Oh,
I mean, my gosh, that's what this is about. I mean, it's just so neat. Every one of you. You know, I didn't want to go to his birthday. I don't know if you were on when I explained it before, of a closure. It's like a new beginning, that he's more alive. You said it so good. Nobody, I think all of us hear that. He's so, Joanne Manju said that too, who knows it. That's just like him in that book. And just, not only did you get that, but you got the teaching. You know, you explained it to us all. It's like, man, I'm going to go back and read it so I can get some more, which does help. But the other thing is Kathy Anderson. I wish she was on here. When did she start? I know she did murals, but she started this. How old was she? We're not going to say how old she was, but for you to do it and look at the joy. And Richard, it's the happy learner. I mean, what you just gave us, I mean, everyone, all the chats are just like, you said it so well. It's just like, that's what this is about. Doesn't everybody agree? I can't wait to hear what every one of us, it's like, oh yeah, what I was saying was, it's like his paintings and books and DVDs will go on. We'll make sure that, but all these stories would be gone. Poof. And that's why when we're gone, I'm going to make sure the stories are archived. This is just, you haven't even met him, and it's like you're his old friend. All of us. It's just, what do you think, Sammy? You guys take it.
Hey, SP, I have to tell you, your studio setup looks so damn professional.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
You were saying it.
I want to see that painting.
Look at the painting, look at the easel, look at the I don't even know. This shows how professional I am, SP. I don't even know what that guy is called in the corner with the chiseled face going on that you have.
Oh, yeah, that is a blockhead. And
well, there you go. I mean, you just little you.
This blockhead, when I bought him, I put him up and said, because I read that artists need to have blockhead. I was afraid of him. I didn't know what to do with him. And now I walk around with him all day long going, I need this angle, I need that angle. I live in this world that nobody else is in except my 3 dogs that are over here. But I love having the connection. And Nancy, I will tell you, I have not even brushed my hair, put on any makeup, done anything. I just got up and came into the studio and I thought, I can't say anything because I just look so horrible. But then I thought, I don't care. It doesn't matter. And for you to come on and say that it meant something to
oh my God.
My year. Absolutely.
You're very beautiful. I could paint you. Is Kristien still on? Because you mentioned Kristien, the other person who worked on the book. Is she still here? She'll be crying too.
Oh, tell her thank you so much.
Oh,
this has been wonderful. I'm going to stay on as long as I can so I can see everybody. Hi, Kristien. How are you? And I'll be here all day tomorrow because I wouldn't miss it. And I've been painting all morning because I knew that you said we needed to be painting. So I've been painting all morning. I'm going to paint all afternoon and all day tomorrow. And whatever I end up doing, I will post it. I don't care whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I'm just going to do the best I can and post it.
SP, can I say one thing?
Call me Sherry. My name's Sherry.
Sherry, okay. Sherry, listen, from everybody in here, we're going to do a 3 cheers to you thinking that you're normal. Now you're with us, you're not. You're part of our crew, okay? So on 3, everybody. On 3, a cheers for Sherry. 1, 2, 3.
yes.
I love you all very much.
How great that as we grow older, we get something fun to do like this.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Thank you forever, Sherry.
I hope everyone will forgive me, but I've just got to cut the queue for someone here who's just managed to come on.
Oh, yes. Of course. We have to hear from Tony Pro too. We will get everybody. I hope you can hold on. We're going to try to. Tony.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. I need to ask you to unmute, Uncle T.
There we go. Hi, guys.
Hello, Tony. Thank you for coming on.
You bet. How y'all doing?
Well, it's quite an experience that all these people are painting in the tribute of Richard, and we're telling just beautiful stories. People who don't know him, it's amazing what they've gotten from the books and from other people. Can you give us a wonderful story, one of your favorite stories, or something you learned, or whatever you'd like to share with all these wonderful people?
Well, hello to everybody out there. I first became aware of Richard's work when I was probably around 10 or 11 years old. I actually have on one of my DVD, actually on my very first DVD, there's footage of me at Richard's retrospective in, I believe it was 1987 at the Gilcrease Museum. So there was a retrospective there. I wasn't there for the opening, but my parents took me to that show, and of course I was just blown away seeing everything. And so I do have footage of that. So, and ever since then, my dad being an artist and a collector, and my older brother being an artist, Richard's books were always around the house. We had
we had, his old landscape book and his old figure book. And so when I started drawing and painting, that just became kind of my go-to Bible. And, Richard's books, of course, like everybody has learned so much from them. And I mean, I certainly have. I mean, so much of what I've learned about painting came from his book, what I know about painting. And I used to, and of course, this all precedes when I've met you guys. When I was in college and in art school, I used to take Richard's Alla Prima book to the gym with me, and I'd put it on the. I would, I'd go and I'd get on the stair climber or the bike, and I would read the book at the gym, hoping that some of the girls around me would see me, studying painting, right? And so I was hoping that would, get me chicks. Never worked, by the way. It never worked. But I did read that book, cover to cover so many times, particularly at the gym, in my studio. And, and then, the process of meeting you guys was, helping you guys with the DVDs. That was just such a huge part of my life. It's such a huge moment. I'll never forget that first phone call I got from Richard. For the folks that don't know, I was working at MGM Studios in Los Angeles. I was working on, my job was creative director of their DVD product. And this was going back, this is almost 20 years ago, a little less. And at the time, we all, of course, had Richard's, VHS tapes and how-to videos and all that. We had the great one of the captain's portrait, which I absolutely loved and watched hundreds of times and wore out the VHS tape. And there were so many situations where he would talk about on screen. He'd say, "Look at the difference. Look at the difference in these alizarin crimsons." Of course, when you're looking at VHS, you can't tell the difference. And I knew from my background in DVD that I could bring this guy into the modern world of, better quality picture, and we could actually tell the difference. Because I did it selfishly, because I just wanted to see the difference and see these demos, being done in a higher quality. So I wrote Kristien, and I put it on my MGM letterhead, and it just made it look real official. And I think within a couple of weeks, Richard called me in my office, and I was just so starstruck and dumbfounded, just sitting in my chair. There's this artist that I had been so fond of for so many years. And we talked, and he invited me to come paint with you guys, and it was just incredible. And I'm telling you, as soon as I got off the phone with him, I jumped so high when I stood up out of my office chair, and I jumped so high. It was just, I was so excited, and I was shaking, and it was just like, I can't believe that this is going to happen. And then from there, it just, I came out and met you guys, which was a magical week. And I'd never experienced cold like that before in February in Vermont. I mean, that was some of the most cold weather I've ever experienced. And, the process of working with him and just, he was so giving. And then just the times that we just sat together and talked about art, and how he made me think about my art. I'll never forget sitting in your kitchen, looking out at the snow and all that. And he wanted to see my work. And so I showed him my work. It was still pretty amateur at that point. I was still learning, as much as I could, but, working full time, it wasn't always easy to stay in the studio, but I showed him the work, and he and he said, this is all, good stuff. You're coming along nicely. And, and he looked at me, and that's when he told me that everything you paint is going to be a self-portrait, no matter if it's, whatever is on your canvas is your self-portrait, and it kind of told me that, this is what what I have to say on canvas is going to let people know my thoughts and my feelings. And I basically painted with that mantra for so many years after that. I mean, it just, I painted so many pictures of my family and my kids and my wife. And there's something very special and unique about that. Your storytelling about your own life, like a writer, and that was very important to me, my development as a painter. And and I went and I moved on in terms of, I was always constantly studying, other things, but the way Richard worked, and the way he inspired people to constantly be learning, and that's what I've told my students for years is, you always got to be moving. You always got to be looking at the people who are better, whether they're living or dead, and comparing your work to theirs. And how do I get my work to look like that? And then once you get there, keep going. And then there's the other side of the coin, the non-technical side is the side of, well, what do I have to say? And Richard had, if you look at the vast decades of his work and the progression of it, all the stuff he was doing when he was living in New York, and just, he was painting, we were seeing his life through his eyes, much like somebody who carried around a camera and just took pictures of their experiences. He was painting those. And that's why I think he had such a profound effect on people, not only technically, but just visually.
You need to unmute, Charlie.
No, I'm unmuted, but you're not getting me in the studio. I'm busy. Actually, I'm cashing my royalty checks, and it's all thanks to Richard Schmid, ladies and gentlemen. It's all thanks to Richard Schmid that I get these royalty checks every month from Streamline Publishing. If it were not for Richard Schmid, I would be out there harvesting the cat food in the fields.
Oh, I've missed you. Where have you been for the last 16 hours and 43 minutes?
I was sleeping for a good portion of it. But oh, it's Penelope. Hey, Penelope. Hey, Laurie LaRue. But this is so neat. It's so neat seeing how Richard has touched all these people. I just tuned in a few minutes ago, and I've been kind of in tears as I cash my royalty checks, ladies and gentlemen. As I cash my royalty check.
It's so strange. Firstly, someone's just asked that we're quite quiet. I'm really sorry. It's because we're too tired to shout. So just turn up your volume a little bit for us, and we'll be there with you.
Our voices have been working for 16
yeah,
hours.
we've been going the whole time.
A little bit hoarse.
But I was going to say, you're not the only person to probably say that about those checks. You want to ask Cathy Anderson, John.
Oh, and Joanne Manji. If we had just known the gold mine that painting pet portraits was, to hell with rotting American infrastructure. I'd be doing gerbils. I'd be doing the gerbils, nutria, capybara, and hamster kind of the kind of rodential. Pets. I think there's a niche there.
A niche? Is that what you say in America?
Niche, yeah.
Okay, we say niche.
A niche. Well, that's because you're British.
I think
we also say we won the revolution. We won the revolution. Sure. Well, the thing that is so moving to me about Richard, I mean, there are on so many fronts, but how immensely talented he was, but he saw his role as his job was to share what he knew. his job is, as he saw it, his job wasn't to be better than anybody else. His job, well, he probably did see his job to be better than everybody else, but he did not encourage a hierarchy in the Putney painters. It was really always, there were people with vastly different skill levels, but it was never the cool kids against the uncool kids. And Richard saw his mission in life to spread the joy and the emotional power that art can bring. And all the techniques that he taught us, he was just so generous about sharing that. He would, in the morning, everybody would paint. He would paint. Then after lunch, he would generally not paint. He would just go around from person to person. And I mean, everybody here is how much we got out of that, you know, that one-on-one attention. And then by writing Alla Prima, you know, that really is everything everything he knows about painting, he shared. I mean, how giving is that in this world where selfishness is so lionized and, you know, pushing everybody else out of the way, like certain former presidents of the United States who we could mention. Richard was the antithesis of that. Richard was about generosity. And even though he had a very high regard for his painting skills, he knew he was good. He was a really genuinely humble man. It was an incredible honor to get to paint with him for 10 years. And I think we all feel that way.
One of the things that I remember most about Richard is that even all the years that I knew him, he always talked about his instructor, Bill Mosby. All the time he gave Bill Mosby credit. And he always said, all they want you to do is turn around and share your knowledge. And that was just in line with his generosity and I think his zest for life. It showed up everywhere. He not only could talk about painting, but he could talk about music, about history. He could talk about anything, and just as with as much zest as he talked about art. And I think that showed up in his paintings. And Tony said earlier, he was talking about how Richard painted what he saw. But Richard would always say being an artist was the best job in the world because he got to show the world how he viewed things. And so I think his zest for life was just incredible. And, you know, I admired the artist incredibly, but I really loved the man. So.
Okay, my name is Michelle Dunaway. I'm in New Mexico. It is almost 4 p.m. And I've known Richard and Nancy for quite a long time. I met them back in 2003. Oh, and I'm going to turn off my email so it doesn't make noise. And met them at a book signing and at the Butler Institute. And it was me and some friends like Jeremy Lipking and a bunch of us all saved our pennies at the time and flew out to see his paintings in person. And we used to have like dinner parties when I lived in California, and we'd watch on VHS his videos that he had and just talk about like, oh, look at this brush stroke here and look how he mixed the color there. And so when there was a chance to meet him in person and see his work in person, we all flew out there, and it was really lovely. And he took time to talk to us, both he and Nancy. And I'll never forget, I don't know if you remember this, Nancy, but I was so embarrassed to have you guys sign my book because I had highlighted it. Like all the places I thought, oh gosh, you know, but it's how I learned. And Richard said, I love that you highlighted it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We all thought that was great. Well researched book.
And every year I would highlight more, and now the entire book is highlighted, so I probably shouldn't have highlighted.
More probably. Oops, I'm fine.
Yeah, and then it's so neat to see your setup, Nancy.
Yeah, you keep talking. It's just so exciting. We'll keep.
I just want to say a quick hi to everybody. I see, people I know and love, Penelope, John, many of the Putney painters.
And a couple more artists. That'd be fun.
What I would absolutely love is for if anybody's got any questions for either Nancy, Michelle, or Penelope right now, hit the raise your hand little button at the bottom and you'll swipe along to the top. We'll bring you in, or feel free to type it. If not, Michelle, I know between Michelle, Penelope, and Nancy, they've got enough stories to keep us going for the next 7 hours. So that was,
I still have to paint tomorrow. I don't know about that long.
I was going to say, if you'd like, Joe and I can sign off now, and we'll leave you to it.
If I didn't have to paint, I would go give you a reprieve. But yeah, I guess it was in 2010, I think it was, when I really got to know Richard and Nancy. And Richard, this is actually a funny story, and I told Richard kind of a neat story. So of course I had admired him all my life and watched his videos. And every time I came home from college, I was in art school in California in my early 20s. My mom, I would get her to watch like the VHS videos of the captain's portrait and like him painting Burton Silverman and things like that. And my mom is a very gifted artist, but she didn't go down that career path, but she would appreciate it with me and we could talk about it. Fast forward to 2009, I believe, I had entered the Portrait Society for the first time with a double portrait, and I got in as a finalist. And my mom, it was right before I was supposed to leave to go to the Portrait Society, and my mom was in the hospital for the first time in her life since she had given birth to me. And it was kind of serious, and she had an infection, and they said, she's going to probably have to have major surgery. And I wasn't going to go to Portrait Society. And she said, it's so important that you go. And I was like, no, you might have to have surgery tomorrow. And then I get a phone call, and I always usually check my cell phone to see who it is. I just assumed it was my dad because I'm sitting next to my mom in a hospital bed. So I just put it on speakerphone and say, hello. And I hear someone say, is this Michelle Dunaway? And I recognize the voice, and it's Richard. And I mean, it had been 2003 when I met him briefly with a ton of other people, so I didn't expect him to remember me. And I'm just like shocked that this man is calling me on the phone. And he goes on to tell me that he and Nancy had seen my portrait that was a finalist, and he expressed how much he thought of my skill as a portrait artist, and he invited me to come out to paint with them at their home and studio. And I looked, and my mom's in the background trying to be quiet, and she's kind of jumped up from her hospital bed, right? She's going like this. She's just so excited because she knew what it meant to me. That was my utmost dream in life as an artist, to possibly be able to watch him paint. I never guessed in a million years that I would spend so much time with him and Nancy and learn so much, and it would be so influential, and we'd become friends, and and they have become more than artists to me. They're family, And so I hung up the phone. Long story short, my mom didn't end up needing the surgery. She got totally fine that day. The infection healed. They got her out of the hospital. And I said, Richard, you healed my mother by calling me and inviting me to come out and paint. And he said, well, he was happy about that. And it was just, of course, when I went out there and just to watch him paint, I thought it was a one-time thing. And I met wonderful Penelope, who facilitated the barn. And she said, you have to come out here and teach. And then I would come out and paint with Richard and Nancy all the time and teach. And it was just, going out there to Putney. And I told Penelope and John this when John was alive, and Nancy and Richard as well. And meeting all the Putney painters and being in that environment, it was like stepping into a fairy tale, a fairy book. you know, just the environment that Penelope and John created, the way Richard and Nancy encouraged and inspired the group of people when we paint together. It was just, and you know, because you've been out there, Simi, that it's just, it is like you're stepping into a fairy tale. You know, I'd have to pinch myself that it's real, and just the kindness from all of the Putney painters. And you know, and I heard Penelope talking about this earlier. There was no like competition. It was a sense of everyone lifting each other higher, you know, and with Richard as well. And Nancy too. And, you know, Nancy is one of the most amazing teachers, and I look forward to her books and videos coming out in the future. And being invited into their world in that environment was just, to me, one of the greatest privileges of my life.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Oh my gosh, it's Scott.
How are you guys doing?
Well, first of all, I will say you look more like Santa today than you've ever looked for a while.
Well, I've only got 3 months to grow it out even some more. So, you know, that's part of being a grandpa. So I've got the rest of it covered too. How are you two doing? I see a lot of my Putney painter friends on hand. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, we're doing great. I'm so happy that you're with us. How are you?
I'm at the gallery. We just had an opening today, and everybody's cleared out. So I thought I'd sneak on real fast before things get busy again, maybe tonight.
Oh, it's always nice to be busy. It's so great. That's so good.
Scott, we're asking everybody to say your name, where you are in the world, what time it is, and how you know Richard, because not everybody's going to know.
My name is Scott Jones. I am currently in Edmonds, Washington, at the Cole Gallery. And my association with Richard started long before I ever met him, as just an absolute fan and as a collector. I don't know if Nancy and Molly and Richard even know that one time I did sneak to Colorado for the auction years before I ever got into the art business. But as a collector, I fell in love with Richard's art just from the collecting standpoint and studying and watching. And then when I ended up being the general manager of Legacy Gallery in Scottsdale and Jackson Hole and Bozeman, I often tell people the smartest thing I ever did at Legacy Gallery, other than finding a few absolutely fantastic, incredible Western artists, was invite the Putney painters to Scottsdale.
That was amazing.
And those two events that we did in those consecutive years with the Scottsdale Art School are my favorite art events I've ever done. You know, and I looked at back and I look at who, you know, the associations that came, and, you know, then Legacy was able to, you know, start representing several of the Putney painters and some of the friends that we had part of those exhibits. And, you know, in reality, it's how I met Nancy, it's how I met Simi, it's how I met, you know, just go down the list, Kathy Anderson and Stephanie and all, you know, Daniel Thies and Casey, and, you know, just down the list.
Right, that whole bunch.
And it's Michelle that way. I mean, it's in getting the chance to represent a bunch of them for years to come after that was a treat. And going to Putney and spending a Saturday with you guys was like, you know, I'm sure everybody else says it's like going to Mecca. Well, it was like going to Mecca, even for a guy like me that doesn't do art. It was special. So I have a lot of fond memories of Richard and Nancy and just the camaraderie that was instilled with other artists. I used to run a, you know, $100 million plus manufacturing company, and I often tell people how many millions of dollars I spent on copyrights and trademarks and patents and all that, and then you leave that business world and you get in the art world, and all of a sudden you're seeing people sharing everything that they've learned with other people. It's like, what? That's not how business works. You can't do that. And, it's just such a shocking, beautiful, wonderful thing, but it is so different than what happens out in the world. And obviously Richard was one of the best at that. So
Daniel, oh my gosh, we might get. Thank you for coming on. He's been on for a while, but you've probably been an artist. We couldn't find
I've
you.
been painting. I don't know if you could see what I'm doing.
I want to see your painting. And I
Right
liked you had some string there. I was wondering, man, what's he doing with that string?
Oh, it was a maul stick, actually.
Oh, it
But-
was a ball stick. Okay.
but I do use strings quite a lot for 2-point perspective, linear perspective. You know, when the vanishing point is like 20 feet away, then you need strings or something.
Oh, good. Well, if you teach a class, let me know. I want to look at it. Anyway, let's see. Could we see what you're painting in honor of Richard? That's so sweet.
Sure. It's
Are you now? You're in
well, I'm at my studio in Denver.
in
And,
Denver. Okay,
yeah, and so here's a still life, and I don't know if you can see the subject, and here's the painting, and I'm at the early stages of it. But a way I go about painting much of the time, really all the time, is I work from back to front more often than not. And
so tell me what that means. So
what it means is do the most distant things first and the close-up things last. And there's a couple of reasons. One is it's just technically so much easier to keep areas clean. But another reason is that the more distant things like a wall or sky or something like that is a huge thing that influences the color and everything else that you're going to add to the painting. So you have even if it's a neutral kind of color like this wall paint, it affects everything else that you're going to do. And so that's a real reason. That combined with the fact that it's technically so much easier. But it's only easier if you're fairly sure-footed with your drawing, because you need to do it right. Now, one thing that helps is fast-drying paints. And then your drawing can be a little messed up, and it's very forgiving. You can wipe it off and redraw it. If the paint's still wet, you're working from back to front, then you really want to try to get it right the first time, which I don't know.
So interesting. That's so fun.
Is that an unusual approach? Because
Yes, to me it is. That would hurt my brain, I think.
it's just a different way of thinking. Out on location is exactly, I do the same thing, on landscapes, still lifes, portraits, and I just find it helps me unify pictures. I'll give you a real quick tour of the studio. Here's a large painting of mine that
I love your paintings. Richard loved your paintings too.
well, that means a lot to me to hear that, because I was a student of his in absentia, you might say. But I'll just show you what I mean by that at my desk here. Over the years, I saved every magazine article I could get my hands on that had his work in it. And there are mountains of them. And, all the earlier books, the first book. And I was going through this, and there's a painting which I copied. And this one, this nude, you surely know this nude on the seated nude. Only frustrating thing about it was that it was better than my paintings, my original paintings. The copies were so much better than my own work, but hey, that's how you learn. And this was probably in about sometime in the 1970s. And then I remember the first time that we met, you were with Richard. This was probably like in the late 80s at the Grand Central Art Galleries in New York City.
Oh my gosh, that was quite a while ago.
Yeah. Do you know when that was?
No,
87?
I'm not good at years. No, I don't know.
Probably about, I'm thinking about 1987, but somewhere in there. And it was, it was really meeting a celebrity as far as I was concerned. A celebrity with content, not just a celebrity with, famous for a reason, for real accomplishments.
Mhm.
And I refer to these, and I look, I refer to the landscape book, the newest one, and Alla Prima, and I quote from it sometimes in conversation.
Oh my gosh. Thank
I
you
do.
so much.
I make quotes. One of my favorites is he's talking about like cocktail party conversation in the book, and he goes, somebody gushing at him says, "Oh, you must see so much more than the rest of us do." You probably know where this is going. And he replies, he thinks about it for a minute, and he says, "Well, actually, what we try to do is see less, so we can get to the essence of it all and the real gist of it, the meaning, and distill it. And then if we embellish it with surface details, that's fine too. But we've got to have the most fundamental parts of it." And I just think that the way he put it was rather entertaining, in the cocktail party setting. It may or may not have happened, but it was a good way to tell the story. And that's one. What's another one? Another one is from the Alla Prima book, where he's talking about, complaining as most of us do about the world of contemporary art. I mean, he didn't dwell on it too much, but he just described it as some, that art, Western painting that we do had been a tradition, really from the Greek golden era, really from cave paintings and Lascaux representation, and it's throughout the history of art, and Renaissance, Baroque, neoclassical, 19th century, and then at the end of the 19th century, it just took a 90-degree turn somewhere else, and it was not even about art. It was some other kind of human activity that displaced art in terms of mainstream appreciation. But anyway, the way he had phrased that was so effective that I kind of model my own comments after that a lot of times. So I read those books, and the landscape book has been incredibly helpful. You can see it's been worn.
Oh, you got the old one. That's so great. Yes.
Yeah, the old one. In fact, these copies, these are my second copies. The first copies were lost in a fire, actually, in a long time ago, 1984 or so. I found it difficult to find new ones, replacements though, already, and they hadn't even been out that long at that point. When they come out, right, like in 1974 or something.
Yeah,
something
we
like
hope to
that.
reprint them and have really good images in there someday, but yeah, that'll be down the line. We'll reprint them.
But I've got so many of these, and you're in a lot of them, of course, which is there are a lot of really beautiful paintings of you.
Yes.
And some that I think are probably you, but they're not necessarily labeled. There's anyway, I can't even just magazine articles that I've saved. I can't even
Yeah, I know what you mean.
remember how many that I have, but they're lifetime keepers. So, and I look at them constantly and try to figure out, it does help me solve, figure out how to approach my own painting problems.
Yeah.
But here's something even more, because I've just sort of been dwelling on technical stuff. What is even more important to me is the emphasis and the importance that he had on beauty as an end in itself. And I'm not even sure I ever heard him articulate that, but it's just obvious in his work. It's evident. And of course, your deeds matter a whole lot more than your words. And I just think that a pure pursuit of beauty with no other agenda, no other purpose is enough.
Yay! Our trusted co-host is back.
Did rumor get out that I'm your midnight co-host?
You know, I'm so glad you're back.
I've actually been listening a bit on and off all day today, you know, now that I'm back in the studio. Daniel, can we just I just wish we could do a replay on what Daniel just said, because I had a thought about it, but now of course I started thinking, oh, I need to move that piece so they can't see that in the film tomorrow, because I'm cleaning my studio, trying to get ready for tomorrow.
Go back to the fact that you have a Richard Schmid painting of yourself stapled to your wall. I still can't get over that. I know that was probably 10 hours ago, but now
don't get me into trouble. Don't get me into trouble with Nancy. I don't want to. I don't want to hear it.
What are you? I mean, how old is that painting? Was you said from the 80s, and it's still
no 1993. He did that. 1993.
It's still.
We did take it down when we painted the wall, and put it back up. Yeah, I had brown hair then, so you know. But that's over at the other studio. That's at the house. I don't know if I have any of his paintings here. I don't have them in this studio. I have a print or two from when we had the thing out, the retrospective out in Colorado, and we raised money for the land grant or something, like the buying of the purchasing of the land to protect it. And he raised money for that too. Just another form of his generosity. But I was saying what Daniel was saying about beauty, and I guess it just occurred to me what he said, that Richard wasn't afraid to actually embrace it, you know, and he said something about what it is he wasn't afraid to stand behind believing in putting that forward in the world. Do you know what I mean? Well, it was the thing about irony. So Daniel said that when you paint irony, it's almost as if you're afraid to say, you say what you're not saying because you're afraid to say what you're saying. And what Richard really did believe, and I think Daniel, Sprick as well, and Nancy, and a lot of the people that you've been sharing today, are people who are willing to stand and be brave enough to say that this world is beautiful, that this world is that life has meaning in and of itself just because it's here, you know, and all you have to do is turn and look at it and see it. And I think that's it is a brave statement in a time when it's so easy to criticize all the things, you know. It's almost like criticism and being hard on everything in the world is like the easiest place for us to turn. And it is hard to stand behind saying that I stop in this moment to embrace the beauty, you know, the way the sun is falling across that grass. And that's enough for me. It's enough for me to witness that and put that witnessing into an artifact that other people can then see and enjoy, you know. I mean, it's a wild thing that in this time, it's actually a statement of bravery, you know. And we can't, can I say one more thing about it? I just want to say last thing. We can't let only the people like 300 or 200 years ago be the people that were able to see beauty and paint it, you know. And it's like the 20th century sort of said, you know, you're not allowed to paint that. And it's as if all of us that are alive in this time aren't allowed to actually embrace a huge part of why it's great to be alive, you know, in our paintings. And so I appreciate people like Daniel and Richard and Nancy and you guys being advocates. I mean, I'm a little wayward on it on myself, and I've run a roller coaster on that whole thing, and I think all those guys know about it. So it is something to stand behind a statement like that, to stand behind and say that. If you don't, that's all. I just wanted to say that.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh wow. And you've been painting all day. We didn't know you were here. Did you paint, Jeremy? Can we see your painting?
I did some, but I also had to prepare some painting for a gallery today, so I had to get them down there. So
Would you like it? You don't have any paintings here?
What's that?
Do you have any paintings here of yours we could see?
Well, I've
Oh,
got a couple left.
And the one Richard painted that I adore.
Yeah. You guys look great and healthy. I'm so happy. Thank you for joining this for Richard.
Yeah. Oh,
You can see them
wonderful. Yeah, these are a couple of figurative pieces, but I have some landscapes and stuff that I've already sent out, so had to do that earlier. Of course, as you remember.
Yeah, Richard painted her from life, everybody. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, that's treasure piece right there.
Gosh, is that
piece.
I still have the one I did of you, Jamie. I'm gonna finish it and send it to you too. Finished it yet. Still, how many?
Do you?
So, would you like to say something? Oh, first, tell us your names and where you live.
Okay, I'm Jamie Dawes, and we're in I know I have a big Tennessee accent, but we live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this is my husband, who's the artist, Jeremy. And then, do you remember the way we met, Nancy? Because I do. I moved away I had purchased Jeremy to come. I'm not an artist, clearly, not an artist, but I love him because when I married my husband, he showed me things about the world I would have never noticed. And I bought him a ticket to come see Richard, and I was getting sick. I have something called Addison's disease, so I can have seizures, and I didn't want to ruin Jeremy's trip. So I moved away from the crowd and unfortunately had a seizure. And when I came to, Nancy was there with me and helping me. And I'll never forget it. And then we went to hear Richard, and I was like, oh God, please make me an artist right now. And Jeremy said, well, somebody has to buy the art. But I'll never forget what transpired after that, because y'all invited me to the Putney Painters and my husband. And I learned yes, it was the best day of my life because I got to hear what I call beautiful artists speak, colors and how you do eyebrows. But I'll tell you something that got Richard tickled. He was teaching a woman right in front of me. And I would every once in a while, he would let me ask questions. And I have a saying, and y'all, I don't want to offend nobody here, but in my family, we say stuff like, I love you bigger than Dolly's boobs. Because we're and Richard, I want to tell you, Richard's eyes got big as a saucer, and he giggled and he said, could you say that again? And I said, I love you bigger than Dolly's boobs. So but the best part of my day was at that time we were trying to adopt some children, and y'all can, I didn't want to take money, and you, Nancy, I guess, and Richard found that out, and y'all contributed toward the money towards my children, which could you call the babies around?
Yeah.
Oh,
buddies, yeah, come on. Y'all, and they're now 16 and 15. They're no longer babies, but
oh my gosh.
And they're artists as well. So Richard has inspired, that's Tova, Lashana Tova, and Elisha Chains.
Yes, I remember. And you've painted them many times too, Jeremy, very well, beautifully. Oh my God. And both of you are painting now too, correct?
Yes, sir. Let me get it. I'll let them come around. They're so shy. I'm the only one not shy, and that's because I work with camels and horses. You can't be shy when you're training a camel. There ain't no room for it. But I'm the one that likes to buy artist work. So I go around and buy all those work.
Can you tell everybody who's watching, Richard just had so much fun painting Jamie. I mean, we just had so much fun. And I'd love for you to say, I mean, that was a great story. If there's something you would like to say, Jeremy, in how Richard has influenced you or
sweetie,
or has helped you with your art or something like that.
Well, it all started in Boston when we were doing an off-Broadway show. I was the choreographer because that's what my career was at the time, was a dance choreographer. And of course, when you're doing choreography, there's a lot of downtime because there's a SAG rules and all that kind of stuff. So I went to an art store and tried to play with. This was in the year of 2000. So was playing around with some paintings and I just couldn't find my way. But I was walking in an art store and I looked at a wildlife art magazine and there was the painting of Nancy feeding the swan sitting on the cover. And I'm telling you, I stopped in my tracks and I even went home that evening when she got through doing her rehearsal. And I said, look at this guy, look at this, this, I can feel what he's doing. It's like his work just had an emotion to me. And so that actually, I went almost changed me overnight, painting wise. I literally had a whole nother and just saw how free he was as an artist, and I desired it, and just kept approaching. So, of course, when I saw his book, Alla Prima, everything I know about Alla Prima,
best book in the world.
I bought every book you got. You know, there's a couple of old ones I'm still trying to get a hold of, but but I just I studied, but no way did I know that I was going to meet him just a couple of years later, and get to be with y'all and have that dinner. I remember that dinner we had at that hotel restaurant. That was an amazing night. So yeah. So anyway, it's just from then on, I just had an amazing, and of course, I have a great wife who's pushed me to continue to paint because many times I felt like giving up, you know, but she was right there to keep me going. And so
yes,
here I am today.
Jamie just is always talking about you. You're just so poetic in how you talk about art. And I'm just so glad you made it here in tribute for dear Richard. And, you know, and I'm sure you probably heard that. I'm just saying, you know, his birthday's coming and it's not a closure. It's more so with all these thousands of people painting today in tribute of him, that it's a new beginning, that we get to, you met him, how fun and generous and just like
amazing.
And how we're just going to be sharing all our knowledge and fun and joy just the way he did. And I'm just gathering these stories because they'll be gone, and this way they'll be forever even when we're gone, so that just to know how art is so important in music, painting and all of that. So
it's so important. And I learned so much about the detail and the love and the heart. I really got, when Richard was talking about my eyebrows, I got pure tickle. I couldn't quit laughing. You have to sit there and be still, which isn't my skill, Nancy. Yeah. We all know it. I was humming during the thing, and one guy sitting to the side said, "She's humming again." I was going, mm-hmm. So when we got out that day, Richard said, "What? There's a picture Jeremy took of me and Richard talking." He said, "I recognize that song and I really like it." So he said, "You're going to have to sing it." So I said, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." And he said, "Okay, that's enough." He said, "That's enough. It's enough singing." One of the most fascinating men, other than this one right here, my cowboy that I've ever met. And what I've learned about art has literally changed my life. Even in film, when I'm designing a film set, we come in, we bring Jeremy in, and he literally does it by, we call it the Richard film set, Richard Schmid's film set. And I love the books. I read them myself. Of course, I want y'all all to pray for my husband, because I tried to paint one time a river in the Smoky Mountains. He told me my skill was other places. Let's all pray for him right now. Let's close our eyes. But I love art, and I love that Richard's gift has touched my husband and now my children. And I'm not gonna give up painting. Ain't nobody can stop me, Nancy. Nobody. He's afraid I'm gonna pass out. With Addison's, I can be talking and then just I'm gone like that. I just fall over and face plant. So I won't be doing movies anymore. So I might just be painting along with y'all. Although I've been told stick figures don't sell, Nancy. Is that true? The stick figure sale?
I think it all depends. I think with Alla Prima, there's a possibility.
I love you, Nancy.
I love you. I love you guys too. We will connect again soon. Thank you for being there for me, for Richard, and with all these artists. It just means the world to me. And new beginnings coming, and just having them in our hearts and letting them live and help us. You know, Alla Prima he'll always be an Alla Prima, and in your painting and in our memories. And that's why this is so important. We're getting all these wonderful stories that we've never heard before. So yeah, you guys are just great. Thanks for coming on. I just we'll talk soon.
Catch my love. Catch it. Catch it, Nancy.
She's so great, isn't she? Oh my gosh. Thank you, Jeremy. Oh my God. And Jamie.
So great.
And your children too. Next was oh my gosh, that's yeah, man, she does great work. Wow. Oh my gosh, I get to meet you. Where do you live?
Oh, I'm in Singapore now.
Oh, you're in Singapore. Oh my God.
Yeah, I was here in the beginning yesterday, and then stay on and off for 12 hours, and then I went to sleep and then wake up, and then I came here, and then you guys still here, and I'm still alive.
We might go like this.
You're gonna get asleep like a newborn baby later.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm telling you. I can't wait.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great thing tomorrow. Just Andrea, remember, yeah, everybody come here tomorrow at noon EST time. But yes, tell us about you. Tell us about. So you're all the way in. Where are you now?
Yeah, I used to live in US for a long time, and then my husband got a job here, so I'm stay a couple of years here. So yeah,
Does that add to our list? She adds to our list, right?
We actually had a couple of people on from Singapore.
Oh, we did? Okay.
That's great.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm not sure Nancy remember me to we met at the 2017 Portrait Society of America.
Yes, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, I have a picture.
Yay! Oh my gosh, there you are with this. So exciting.
Yes, this time. Yeah, I was very happy that I met my superstars, my BTS. I met you and Chard. And
that's so neat. Oh my God. Good. We were all trying to do that. We got to learn how to do that. That was good. Okay. I didn't know we could do that.
So, at that time, you and Richard gave me a very kind word and encouraged me a lot. And that means to me a lot.
Me too. I'm so glad you were there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't expect
That's so good. I love it. I just love it. It means so much to me too.
Yeah, I just want to share one of my drawing that I just finished.
Yeah, let's see.
Here, as soon as I heard the sad news on April, one of my wish lists was paint with Richard in his studio. but I didn't have, I wasn't brave enough to ask. And then maybe later, and then as soon as I heard the sad news, oh my God, I lost the chance. And then I was very sad and depressed about a month. And I wanted to share and solve my feelings. So I thought we all need consolation, especially in this pandemic. There are so many people dying and Richard died. And so I started this painting, this drawing for who need comfort. So I drew this for several months, and then I just finished that. I want to share with you guys. I'm not sure.
Oh my God.
He is praying for anyone who wants to comfort. I'm really sorry.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, she's praying for everyone, every one of you guys. And in the background, the red poppy is blossom, which means a consolation, comfort. Oh, I didn't know I cried.
I'm
Okay.
I'm so happy you're crying. He meant so much too. That's so great. That's so good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm very good. Nancy,
we've been doing that too. Yeah.
Yeah, every time I struggle with my painting, I open this Richard Schmid's book, and my favorite page is
what page?
24.
Oh, that one.
He's struggling. Okay, whenever I struggle, oh, okay, Richard Schmid struggled too. That makes me.
That's so happy. He was laughing.
Yeah, it feels like the Richard said, "It's okay, Sookyi. You are doing fine." Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that for people.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this. And even though I'm very far from you guys, and I'll always be in the artist group, but I'm all alone here. But I feel like I'm in Richard Schmid's family because we all admire the Richard Schmid.
Now I'm not quite prepared to talk.
That was quite wonderful.
That was beautiful. The whole day has been like that, though. So many great people around the world. What a treat. So I'll keep it brief. Thanks for the chance to allow me to share my gratitude, Nancy, both for you and for Richard. Richard's work was the thing when it came along. It gave me the foothold that I needed. It was finally the art that I felt was in me. And it just changed my life. And I can't really say I've read all of Prima word for word. I've had it for years, and I always get into looking at the paintings. I read a section, and then the creative juices are going, and I'm off painting.
Good for you. Good.
Yeah. I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado, actually, by the way. We've got a great artist community here. And I wanted to just show everybody one thing here this is in landscapes, right? Yeah. So this house in Bellevue is in Bellevue, Colorado, just a few miles from where I live now. And so I remember distinctly driving around looking for a place to plein air paint in that area. And I saw that house, and my brain said immediately, where have I seen this house before? And I could see it in this duality of Richard's painting and the house right there. I've gone back by that house so many times. Every time I'm on that road, I'll stop and look at that house. And I think it's just mind blowing what he did with the complexity of that, the growth and the trees and such. But to create poetry from that, I think that's a really such a gift that I can actually see the scene that he painted and the painting. I think, many pieces, most all pieces you see, you never really see the mind, right? And so that's so inspiring to me. But I was able to meet both of you at the retrospective in Denver about 5 years ago or so. And what a treat to meet you both and just to see how loving you both were and the great people that you are. So that was very special. And then also to see Richard's work up close. I studied those pieces every minute that show at 1261 was open.
Oh, yeah, that was a great show. Oh my gosh, that was very special. Oh, yeah, we got a lot of paintings from all different collections.
Yeah.
That was amazing. That was really.
So I just wanted to express my gratitude. And one last thing is that I did early on bought the 4 DVDs of the different seasons of lessons from Richard and poured over them, watched them. And it's funny because my studio, when I'm in my studio, this is my office now, but when I'm in my studio painting, sometimes I want music, sometimes a podcast or books or whatever on tape. But oftentimes I'll just pop one of those DVDs in. I've got a TV in my studio. I don't watch. It's comforting to hear Richard teach. And I'll paint for hours and that DVD will probably I don't even know how many times it goes through, but it's like he's in there.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing? There isn't anything I would cut. He's brilliant talking through the whole thing on all of them. It is just amazing. Thank you for reminding me about that. And you'll enjoy tomorrow because we have a little bit of the brief history of the Richard Schmid art auction that was right there.
Yeah.
So you'll enjoy that. Wes, do you know Wes Rudd out there?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know him. I was so by the time I found Richard, you guys had moved. And this was like in the span of 5 years or so. I was just in shock. Same thing with Clyde Aspavig living in Loveland. And yeah.
Yeah, he had.
Oh, well, day late and a dollar short.
I think some of you heard this, but it's a great one to end on because it helped my art and my life so much. He's right here. He's on this side of me painting, and we're in a room full of artists, and he set the model, and we can hear everybody painting, that wonderful and cleaning their brushes and everything. And we're still putting our paint out and looking at a model and thinking, what's the hardest edges? What do I want to say? We're getting ready to start, and he's doing the same thing. And so I turned to him, I go, and I had to do this fast because I wanted to get the exact. I wanted to know what he was thinking. So I turned and I said, what are you thinking right now? Because I just wanted to know. And so he's just so funny. So he's putting on his paints, and he takes a moment, and is just very still. And then he turns his head towards me. And he said, success. It changed my life, my art. I don't know why I never thought of that word. After that, and some people get scared of that word success. And if you get scared, you got to think of another one. But for me, it was like, man, I don't want to start a painting without trying to think, do the alla prima list. And oh my God, I got 2 more minutes. And do the alla prima list of why am I painting?
Go over.
Well, why am I painting this? Where's the hardest edges? Where's the softest edges? It's in one of the pages, and you can even write any more. But after that, it was like, oh, course I don't want to start one unless I think it's success. That was just such a great story to end on. So that was neat, because now all of you can take that with you, and it's not a scary thing. It's more so you just go through the list of, and that's kind of what we were doing. Why am I painting this? Do I need to do the, do I need to change anything before I start? Where's my darkest darks, lightest lights, my easiest color? Anyway, so. Oh, I love you, Richard. Thank you all so much for coming. I'll see everybody tomorrow at noon. I'm just so overjoyed. Thank you so much. And to Sammy and Joe, thank you. And all the
Thank you,
others.
Sammy and Joe. Thank you.
Sammy
Thank
and
you,
Joe.
Nancy.
See everybody tomorrow. Love you all so much. Bye.